Thank you, Mr. President. Growing up, my mom's here. Growing up, I didn't know I didn't know anything about epilepsy. We were, like many families, fortunate that somebody in our family or someone we were close to didn't suffer from it. But I've become very aware of it as a father. Stephen, who's here, was diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis when he was 5 months old. We went in, he had a birthmark that looks like an angel wing actually on his leg. Jamie thought so little of the doctor's appointment, she let me go. And I went with my mom actually to a dermatologist. We thought we were going to put some cream or some ointment on his leg and that would be the end of it. He was our first child. Meeting with the dermatologist, she turned the light off and put a black light on, and he had a number of them all over his body. And she said he probably has something called tuberous sclerosis. I had no idea what that meant. It took us a few weeks to get in to see a neurologist, but of course during that time we're on WebMD and Google and trying to figure out what it is. And it's a genetic disorder where you have a number of tubers in your organs, and he has them in all of his organs, including his heart, behind his eyes, and his kidneys, but most affected in his brain. And people with TS have a high propensity for epilepsy. And Stephen's on the autism spectrum, so he's been pretty affected. He had his first infantile spasm when he was around 11 months. And if we didn't know about his diagnosis, they're so undetectable, you think that your child is just sort of clenching his fist. That was our first experience with it, and he went on medications right away. He had his first breakthrough seizure when he was 16 months. It was a normal Saturday morning in the fall with our baby boy in his crib in the other room, and I walked down the hall, and we hadn't heard him at that, and so we were sleeping in. And I walked in his crib, and he was, convulsing uncontrollably, foaming at the mouth. His bedspread was wet, and his eyes were rolled in the back of his head, and it was a terrible moment in our lives. And at that moment came to the full realization of what epilepsy meant for us and for him, potentially for the rest of his life. We called 911. They finally stopped the seizures. But about every 3 months, so we would have them daily. We started meds, tried meds. Some would help, some wouldn't help, but never really found relief. He would have those breakthrough seizures about every 3 months. And about a year after that, when he was 2.5, had a seizure that lasted for 4 hours. And we were in the ER, and there was nothing that anyone could do to stop him. And Jamie couldn't be in the room. I remember looking at the clock, which had, hours and minutes and seconds. And it took about 20 minutes. They'd try a different med to try and stop the seizures, and nothing would stop. And they were on the last one before they were going to induce a coma, and that he may not ever get out of. And I remember holding his hand and praying and just wondering how we ever got there. And since that time, we have found some relief. He has not been to the ER in a few years with a breakthrough seizure, but he has them every day. They were walking to school with him on Monday and had to lay him. The North Glendale Elementary is not very far from our house. And we were walking, and we had to lay him on somebody's front lawn on his side so that he would, make sure he was still breathing. So we live with that every day, and we're not alone. There are thousands of families throughout the state that live with that fear. He's maxed out on all of his meds through his height and his weight. There's really nowhere else for us to go. So when I became aware of this, we started investigating it and found that the efficacy rate is extremely high. There are kids that are literally having hundreds of seizures every day that are having none now because of the CBD oil. And we all bring our own personal experiences, to this chamber in one way or another. And for us, this is our personal experience. And, Stephen he doesn't have words. He's nonverbal. He's 9. But I think his impact on us, and hopefully for other kids, and not just Stephen, June Jesse, who they're moving to Colorado, and the parents we've heard, even though they're nonverbal, I think they have a lot to say, and they're teaching us a lot and leading the way for us to have the courage to do things like this. But I thought, to talk about what this means for our family, to really bring home who we're helping. As I said, he's developmentally delayed. He really relies on us for pretty much all of his daily needs. We've searched so far as to seek out whether or not he's a candidate for brain surgery. I mean, if you would have told me when he was born that, that baby boy we brought home, that I would be hoping for brain surgery, that's a stretch. But that's where we've gotten, and that's where a lot of families have gotten to try to find relief. The mortality rate is 2 to 3 times the average. Just with epilepsy, with intractable epilepsy, it's much higher than that. We're fortunate that Jamie is home. She was teaching, she's home with Stephen. We've made that decision as a family. And we think it's the right thing to do, but it's a lot of work. A lot of love and a lot of help from our family. We can't have typical babysitter situation, and with our schedules, that sometimes is very taxing on our families, but we have a great support network. Not everyone has that. Our babysitter situation is somewhat limited. Our ability to go places, we can't fly anywhere. If we drive anywhere, we check and make sure there's an ER nearby. We have emergency meds, and if we don't have them in the car, we have to turn around and grab them so that if something happens, we can be there to help. He can't really swallow typical meds, so it's all, orally induced with liquids. And he's a kid. He doesn't like doing that twice a day. So we put him in the shower, and he likes being in the shower. And but that's just kind of the stuff. The medications have terrible side effects: leukemia, death, drowsiness. But that's all we've got. His balance isn't great because of whether it's the epilepsy or whether it's the meds. We don't really know. But he's broken his arm. He's fallen down steps. We have to hold his hand a lot of places. I think more than anything, it's just kind of the fear that you live with, that the next one could be that one that is the 4-hour seizure or worse. And so the promise of the CBD oil is real. Stephen doesn't, because of that fear, Stephen doesn't sleep in his own room. His bed is in our room. And we're just not ready to take the risk that we walk in one morning. We'd rather him be in the room with us. And he has seizures at night. It interrupts his sleep pattern. And he, when he has them at night, all I can do is just hold him and say that I love him. And I often wonder what he would say to me. Is he scared? How long is it going to last? But we just do what we can. We just love them like any parents would. And I pray every night when I'm holding them that something will make a difference. I don't know if this will. We've had hope before. It hasn't worked out. This might or might not. We're willing to try. There's a lot of families that are moving their whole lives to another state to do this. So I hope that they have an opportunity in the state that they love, where they have family, where they have that support network, where they have people to help them. They can do it in their own homes and not have to move. Gandhi once said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." And I think that in the gentleness found in my son and June Jesse and the kids all across the state that are looking for relief, they are shaking the world, but it's through us. We have that ability today with this vote and to move this forward to allow something great to happen that will change lives, that will literally save lives. And that is something that we are thankful for through this whole experience, that we have that experience with Stephen, and that I have a voice here, and that I have friends who are willing to roll the calendar, who are willing to show up to events, that are willing to support something like this, because it is something new. But at the end of the day, we're walking alongside these kids here today, and we're doing something that matters. A lot of the stuff that we do, it's what we do. But I think we can all walk away this session, if we get this done, knowing that we really have made a difference. So I am incredibly grateful is the word for all of you, and would certainly appreciate your vote today on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President. I close the meeting.